Welcome again. This is Intro to Authentic Relating, and Tim Behrens is going to take it away.
Yeah, thank you so much, Valerie. Super excited just for this opportunity. I, I feel like I want to talk a little bit about my experience coming into this event, which is one that I do not consider myself a presenter on the topic of authentic relating, more someone who had an interest in it from a personal perspective. And I'll share a little bit of my story coming into that after we kind of get kind of centered in this space. Um, but also, yeah, remembering chatting with Valerie about this, excited because ultimately one of these goals is to bring authentic relating practices into these various communities that we walk in. So awkwardly Zen, Turo Unicorns, and Coffee, and Conscious Connections group here in Kansas City that started for that, and um, and was thinking, yeah, well, we'll do this kickoff event, and maybe have a few people come in. And so as the week has gone by, and I've been watching the RSVPs for the group, I was like, oh, yeah, this is going to be bigger than than I had envisioned. So I'm bringing in today a little bit of just nervousness and curiosity about how things will go, even about what I'm going to say. I mean, I certainly have a list of things that I might talk about, but had wanted to approach this, and this part of this is part of authentic relating is setting context, which is to say, when you gather as a group, it can be more comfortable when you have an idea of or expectations, like what's going to happen here, what's the what, the how, and the why. The what being that this is a introductory talk to authentic relating practices as I know them. um, the how is that we're going to center in a second, do a meditation together, and kind of just as we do in the awkwardly Zen and in Valerie's group, just kind of have something to bring us together, and then have a little bit of that discussion around what authentic relating is, and then we might jump in and just do a quick kind of group practice, and and then toward the end of the event, for folks who still want to experience that, we may take a little bit of time to do some breakout rooms, things that are more traditionally like authentic relating games, which is how I know them. And so coming into this, there's the invitation here, and I'm trying to take this myself as I sit with my nervousness around running this event. One of the invitations is to slow down, and and as we talk about these things, really just take some time to um, be in community with each other, to co-create an experience, and and see where that takes us. So the invitation there would be that as we talk about things too, um, that there will be a point where we'll open it up for questions and discussions, or after in a little while, to have folks be able to put a question in chat if they want to, something like that. Um, So yeah, I think with that, if everyone can kind of just, I'd like to just do a brief kind of meditation, kind of reflection. So if everyone can kind of just center themselves in this space, and lean back in your chair or find yourself comfortable. And what I'd like to do is just take a couple of conscious breaths with each other, and really just kind of come into this space, and breathe in. And as you're breathing in, just start to have an awareness of the chair that you're sitting in, or the floor that you're on. Just notice how you're being supported by that. What are the physical sensations of being here in this moment? Um, and really, I'd invite you to, either close your eyes or have a soft gaze, to not really worry about what's going on in the room at this point. Um, that first part of authentic relating is really to just check in with yourself. What is my experience in this moment? What's it like to pause for a minute and breathe? Can I feel where the my feet are touching the floor? Can I feel, is my breath labored or is it calm? Are there any places in my body where I'm holding tension or stress? And is there a way that I can be with those to really have this feeling of, I'm going to try and welcome everything in this moment. There's nothing that I need to push away right now. Am I feeling anxious? Am curious? Maybe bored? Wondering when this will be over? Whatever it is, can I just welcome that into this space? And then as we continue to breathe together, um, I like to turn our attention a little bit to our emotional space. What's happening for me in this moment? Are there feelings that are coming up? Is there something that happened this morning or this last week that's kind of sitting with me that might keep me from being a little bit present in this space? And instead of trying to push those feelings away, can I just be curious about them and keep asking that question of like, what is it to like to be me right here in this moment? And even as I take another conscious breath, I'd like to turn our attention to the thoughts that are here with us. Um, what kind of stories am I telling right now? Um, what kinds of thoughts are swirling in this space? And and if I am telling stories about what's going to happen, what's happening now, what I brought into this room with me, can I give them a little bit of distance? Is there a way that I don't have to attach to them in this moment? And again, I think we notice with resistance when we try and disregard these things that come up with us, they become more present and more prevalent. So is the way I can allow all of these things to be in this space without feeling like I have to push anything away. This is just the experience of being me right now. And now I guess I would like to invite you to start to bring your attention slowly to the physical space around you. Back to the chair that you're sitting in, back to um, the monitor in front of you, and maybe invite you to open your eyes and find something not on the monitor, something in the room. Just notice a color or some aspect of the lighting, some sensation around you. Maybe it's the wind or the sound of an air vent, just something to bring you into that space. And then as we do that, would invite you also. Yeah, I said I noticed myself a couple of cameras turning on. Would certainly invite you to, if you feel comfortable to do so, to turn on your camera. But also, if not, that's fine too. And just kind of take a look at all of the folks here present today. And I like to reflect a little bit just on in this moment in time, in this way that we have all come to gather. Just what is the opportunity here? Um, for us to be in community, for us to be connected. Just kind of looking at all of these faces on the screen and notice if anything captures your attention. It might be one of the participants or it might be something in the background behind them. But just like what is the opportunity right now here for us to express our curiosity about one another and have the awareness I see friends, I see people I've known for the last year, people who at one point were strangers to me who are now a integral part of my life. People I see for coffee now, um, people I'm curious about, um, and just kind of welcome that opportunity to be in the space and to stay present and to really think about um, maybe the rules that we live by, and that's a big part of what we're going to talk about today. Is me and Stephanie often talk about paradigm shifts. We have these rules that we live by about how we are uh, engaging with each other. What's okay? What's not okay? Can I express a curiosity in this space? Um, could I tell someone what I'm feeling right now and that feels safe to me? Um, Even as I look around the room, I know there are people from different circles and groups here, and I have the awareness that in some of those groups, I might act a certain way. I might have things that I'd share and say that in other groups I wouldn't. And for me, what's coming up is like, how do I stay myself in the midst of that awareness? What can I share and feel comfortable with? And I think that I'd like to say a misconception about what it means to be authentic, because I think some people have this idea. There's this buzzword that goes around about being authentic, and I think some people have a negative reaction to that sometimes because they see it almost as a trend as opposed to a way of being. And yeah, I'm just taking a moment, like, yeah, a moment to settle in and kind of look. As I see people from different groups, it's like, what do I want to express here? What do I want to share? Um, I guess where I'd start is I looked up this morning because realizing coming into this, with that idea that that word gets thrown around a lot, like how would I like to define that for the context of this experience together? And the first thing I came up with was a very simple definition that showed up in a Google search. Authenticity is the proven fact that something is legitimate or real. And then throwing in the relating aspect of that, um, might say it's a relational practice. How is what I'm expressing right now legitimate or real in relation to this moment in time, in relation to all of you in this room, to what's going on between us, to this experience that we're co-creating? um, Speaking your opinions honestly in a healthy way, making decisions that align with your values and beliefs, being real with your passions and the things that you're super curious about. Um, I think often we hold ourselves back from expressing those in the moment for fear of how they'll be judged, how we'll be perceived. Um, Maybe there's some kind of message we got when we were younger about expressing curiosity in the wrong environment can be dangerous or unwelcome. And over time, we start to suppress those things so that when we come into relationship with other people, even thinking about children, how open they are to this magical experience of the world around them, and they extend that to people, right? You see kids going up and giving hugs and asking questions that may be a little bit like, whoa, wow, that is super transparent of you. and and it's okay. It's this new experience. It's this testing of our trying to understand boundaries and trying to understand these magical experiences that are presenting. And over time, we start to suppress those because we get the messages that those aren't okay. And or that there's something about that aspect of ourselves that when we express it in relation to others, is actually taking us into a state of disconnect. So we learn to hide those parts of ourselves. And and yeah, so the invitation with authentic relating is to say, how can we create safe spaces using agreements, where we all come into an agreement about what a conversation or an experience will look like? How can we use those to really reconnect with those parts of ourselves that maybe we've suppressed or that we don't express in conversation? How can we be with our curiosity? How can we welcome things that might feel uncomfortable? For me, it's been this journey of being comfortable with discomfort. Is there something here that's bringing up that? Yeah, and even as I see that, I see Stephanie doing the hand waggle. If you're familiar with Awkwardly Zen, that's something that we brought into that group from authentic relating practices, which is there a way that we can quietly, um, without disrupting a flow of conversation, show that something resonates for us? Show that someone's sharing something and we hear them and we feel it too. And how wonderful is it to look around a room and just know that what you're sharing isn't, because a lot of the times we might, when we're vulnerable, we might share things that we've suppressed for fear of how we'll be judged. And even to say in a moment, um, I feel super anxious right now. Like, and this is truly me expressing this in this moment. I don't know how this is going. I have an awareness that in moderation, when I facilitate other groups, my role is to get out of the way and just let the conversation happen, and to call on people as they're raising their hands and things. So when I find myself talking a lot, it makes me super self-conscious. Um, so I guess that was a long-winded introduction to, what as we define authenticity in the container of this meeting today. I would say it is the state of bringing what's happening in your internal world and your inner experience, what's coming up for you somatically, the body sensations, the emotions, the thoughts, the things that you brought in, your own values and beliefs, everything that's defining that experience for you, what's real for you, um, bringing that into alignment intentionally with the space that you're in, with the people. How is that experience? How can I bring that into congruence with the experience of others in a room? So, and I'd like to offer, like, I thought maybe we could start off just kind of with this introductory game that I enjoy a lot, and it's called Anybody Else. And knowing this hand waggle, this resonance, um, what I'd invite the room to do is, as you feel so inclined, just for a few minutes, we'll do this. Um, would like to invite you to share a truth, something that's happening in your experience right now, and it could be in relation to the room, it could be in relation to something that you're going through in your life, whatever that would be. And just kind of popcorn style, which is to say, you don't need to raise your hand, but to invite you to unmute yourself, and then when you're done, go ahead and mute again, just to avoid feedback and things. And just share something, and if it resonates for others, would love to see the hand waggles in the room. And certainly, I know you can't do that with your cameras off, but there is a way you can click the reaction button, and there's the clapping. So I mean, if you don't feel comfortable having your cameras on, you can clap with us. So um, and yeah, for folks who are familiar with this game, would invite you to jump in, just kind of to help me model this. So I might start by sharing my truth. Um, I'm really curious to see where our conversation takes us today. Anybody else? Yeah, yeah, and seeing that makes me feel good, a little bit more settled. Because I honestly don't know. I'm not sure where we're going today.
Can I go?
Yeah, please. Yeah, popcorn style for sure.
Um, I'm feeling a little nervous about being deeply authentic. Anybody else? Awesome. Nikki, did you want to go?
Yes, hi. Thank you for that, Tim. It was really interesting. I'm keeping my camera off because my house is getting decorated at the moment. So
Sure.
I'm, one of my authenticness will be didn't want to share that my wallpaper is not done on the back wall, so I've got the camera off. I got drawn to your meetup because I had an enlightenment yesterday that my sensitivity means that I've always known that I feel more than other people, but I don't think I appreciated how much more I feel. And it's given me an awareness now of myself, because I used to always feel very self-conscious, that I would feel very upset or very angry, but now that I'm aware of how much that is of me, I can sort of take charge of it. And I think, what's the word to say, be a little bit more accepting of myself, even when people don't understand it and think that, you're weird, because you feel maybe so much. So for me, that's my authenticness now, is to probably acknowledge it more to myself first, and make peace with it.
Yeah.
And then doesn't really matter what other people think after that. So yeah, I thought I would share that.
Thank you, Nikki. As you can see, anybody else? It's a common
Oh, they
experience.
can't. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay.
How about Denise and then Tracy after that?
Hi. Yeah. This year has started off with a bang. I've been blogging off and on for about 10 years. But about 6 months ago, I decided in my blog to just lay it bare and to be authentic, sharing my screw ups and my comebacks. And interestingly enough, one of the points that has continued to come up with me and in my self-awareness in my work is that it is okay to be you. How do I say this? You can feel both vulnerable and safe at the same time. Whereas if you had backtracked 24 months ago in my life, vulnerability equaled weakness. Don't let them see you sweat. But now, just different relationships have come into my life and has those relationships have taught me that it is okay to be vulnerable with these people, and that's the only way to true transparency is to allow myself to be authentic and allow myself to be vulnerable, which is hard
Yeah.
for me. I'm a Virgo. Like, we don't do that shit.
Thank you, Denise. Inviting us back into the game, I'd just like to ask, does that resonate for anyone else? Yeah, I love it. Tracy,
And I tried to lower my hand, but I don't know how. So if the host can do
I'll
that,
help you out. Yeah.
thank you.
I have the urge to share everything I learn on my spiritual path, but I worry about how people will accept it. Anybody else? Yeah.
Thank you, Tracy. Songbo. Oh, and you're on mute, Songbo.
I noticed that I still have some difficulty understanding this authenticity and how it reconciles with trying to be a better person. So that's actually trying to change and thus showing different, just fake it till you make it, right? And also being the person that is required depending on the situation. For example, at work, there's some things that you need to show some behavior at work, and that not necessarily has to be yourself, but it is what is required because you accepted the contract. So,
Thank you. Anybody else? How to be authentic in different environments and different places for sure. We'll do a couple more here. So yeah, Marianne and then Leanne. And
So I tend to share everything. So the other day at work, I found myself talking about aliens during my one-on-one with my supervisor. So I guess people would see me as lacking that sort of filter. You could either see me as lacking a filter or clarity about social situations, or just speaking my mind at that moment in time. So I'd like to see that I'm just I don't really care what people think. I do have anxiety sometimes when I speak because I guess I have this I obviously have this fear that I don't communicate well because I've been told that by society. So
yeah, just to frame that in the game, so it's like anxiety when you speak and you feel like you've gotten that message from society. Does that
I
resonate for you?
have
Yeah.
because I've been
You see
diagnosed
all
with
the
Asperger's and ADHD, and I randomly I interrupt and I just say what's on my mind, and it's not necessarily fitting towards the situation, but I don't care because something comes in my mind and it's like I have to fucking say it, so I'm gonna say it.
Got you. Thank you for sharing, Marianne. Yeah, and I think that resonates for people, so I appreciate it. Leanne.
I feel like one thing that I kind of struggle with in that realm is that every day is something new and something is changing. So like when a new experience happens, or when I go through an attempt to do like a reading for someone, and then you have that click moment, you still have that point of hesitation of, is this real? Is this true? Is this really something? Or am I just making it up?
Anyone else? Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much. So, and the reason why I love that game, um, I'll just share a little bit about my experience coming in. Like, right before the pandemic hit, I had gone through some pretty big life changes. I left a long-term job, had a health scare, had a conversation that led to the finalization of my divorce, all within a couple of weeks. This time period of time where it just felt like my life got turned on end, and I was really looking and lonely and looking for connection, feeling misunderstood in the midst of these things, feeling like I had kind of fallen off of my life path. And in the midst of that, I found a meetup group here in Kansas City that was doing authentic relating games and practices. And even though it was contrary to my nature, I'm very introverted, very shy. I've dealt with insecurity issues and low self-esteem for the good majority of my life. I was like, I'm going to do something different because what I've been doing is not working. And I feel so disconnected. And um, yeah, what's the point, really? I think is where I was sitting at with, if I don't do something differently, this isn't a way to live. And so I found myself going to this room, this yoga studio, and there were about 12 people, and none of them I'd ever met before. And Levi Chettle here in Kansas City was running the group. Um, this had the look of a machismo, ex-military, tall, strong, stoic guy, sitting in this room, and we're all in a circle. And I remember the first thing he shared was like, I'm super nervous. I didn't think anyone was going to show up today. And I was almost kind of hoping they wouldn't, because that would mean I could avoid, this embarrassment of having this event fall flat on its face. And immediately noticing it's like, oh wow, this is like, here's somebody who's feeling these things that I'm feeling coming into it, and he's doing it anyways. And then we started to do these exercises, and they call them games, but they're more of an opportunity to drop in with each other quickly. So for instance, you might do a meditation like we did in the beginning, where you check in with yourself and you come in touch with what's coming up in your body. And then as the invitation there is that as you open your eyes, you come into nonverbal eye contact with a partner or someone you've been paired off with, and to ask yourself, can I stay in tune with these things that are coming up with me as I'm now coming into connection with someone else? And a simple game may be something like a sentence stem to give you a container for exploring these feelings. It might be, and we might try this later today. It might be something like, being here with you, I feel. Um, and then you just express what's going on in your inner world or experience. I feel super nervous maintaining eye contact with someone I don't even know. I'm feeling in my body this shortness of breath. I'm feeling this desire to pull away, to back away. Whatever it is, you just express it. And they might, and then their invitation is to respond, hearing that, I feel. Um, how would you react if someone told you they were nervous maintaining eye contact? That you might hear in return, it's like, hearing that, I feel this desire to comfort you and tell you it's going to be okay. Or I feel more anxious myself. Now, I don't even know that I want to be here right now. Whatever it is, just this practice of expressing it and finding, and more often than not, bringing this back to the hand waggle game, the things that we're experiencing in the moment. We might say to ourselves that we're having a unique experience or something that we're judging ourselves for, and in fact, what we're having is a human experience. And more often than not, the things that we might express as our fears or our concerns or our worries, or even on the flip side, our joys and our contentment and the revelations, that most people can relate to them. And we're creating this container where we can explore that together and find that, um, even in relation to that, as we go out into the outside world, we gain this perspective that we're all having these experiences, and we're not having the opportunity to explore them in our day to day, for um, the different ways we shut ourselves down, or the different ways the world shuts us down with messages about what's okay and what's not okay. The implicit um, rules that we live by that tell us that we should be a certain way in a certain situation is kind of keeping us from having that experience. Um, Yeah, even now I'm sitting with this. I have this awareness. Wow, I'm talking a lot, but I realize that is why we're here today, so I can talk to you about authentic relating practices. So I wanted to take a few minutes just to share in this journey. After having that, I was like, I want more of this, and I want to know where it came from, and I want to understand why this feels so important in my life, and just kind of that led me down this rabbit hole, and uh, that there are a lot of practices like this, and my understanding is that they all kind of started, that their root might have been in this what's called the human potential movement. Um, Started in the 60s as society is starting to give us more and more of these roles to play and shooting us off into different communities to do our jobs, and things are going online more and more. Granted, not in the 60s, but as we're moving into that direction of telecommuting and um, I hate to be Pink Floydian in this, but even saying like being cogs in the machine, right? That there's this response that's coming up in community, um, of of realizing that there is a way of being that doesn't have to do with the roles that we play. And that human potential movement was attributed to, make sure I get my name right, hit the name right, Abraham Maslow. And you've probably heard of the hierarchy of needs. And just to envision, I had PowerPoint slides and everything for this, and realized for me that wouldn't be an authentic way of having this talk. So they're over here, but I'm not showing them to you. But there's this pyramid, and you think at the bottom of the pyramid, there's these physiological needs that we all intrinsically have. Like if we're going to have a contented, successful, happy, healthy life, we have to have air and water and food and shelter and sleep and clothing um, and then above that, as we move up the pyramid, we have these safety needs. We need to feel secure. We need to have employment. We need to have the security of knowing we can keep these base needs. We need to feel resourced. We need to feel healthy in our bodies. Moving up, all of those are in place. We move up. We have love and belonging, um, friendship and intimacy, a sense of connection and community. And then even moving up as we gain these things, we have self-esteem and strength and status and recognition and all of these things that give us this sense of fulfillment and purpose. And so at the very top of this for me is the root of like where authentic relating is trying to bring us, is this self-actualization. Is like one, knowing that we don't all start in the same places on those pyramid, right? We're um, life deals different hands to different people, and it's almost a luxury to be able to explore some of these things. Even thinking about how privileged we are all today to have a computer and an internet connection to be able to come here and talk about these. Not everyone has that, you know. And so this self-actualization is like what can happen when we are in community in such a way that we have these needs met? How can we live to our truest potential? And what does that look like? And that looks like living in a world where we can allow our inner experiences to be expressed in the world. We can find what our passions are and we can align with those passions. And then we can do that in relation to others um, so that we can really collectively evolve in the ways that we communicate with each other, in the ways that we support each other. And there's so many aspects to that movement. I mean, there's so many things that have come out of it, and I'm just beginning to discover them. Just wanting to share a few. One is Marshall Rosenberg's Nonviolent Communication, and have others heard of this? Is this a new term? I just look. Yeah, okay, so couple folks in the room. So, I mean, the idea behind nonviolent communication is that it's a way of owning our experiences in a way that we can look at the things that we're asking for in relation to others and say, is the way that I'm expressing this actually going to elicit the desired response that I want to get? And part of that might be saying, instead of making accusations when some need isn't being met, we own our experience of it, and then we try and be very specific with it. We make an observation about what's happening, and then we share how it makes us feel. because no one can really argue with your experience of how you feel, right? They can, like, if I were to say to someone, you know, you're being condescending to me right now, their response could be, no, I'm not. And where do you go from there? It's like we've created disconnect already. But if I say something very specific, you know, when you didn't return my messages and I saw that you read them, it made me feel like you didn't value my time. And then we might go into this space of expressing, um, yeah, how that makes you feel. And then making a specific request. Is there a way that we can, you know, is there something that I can ask where I'm not judging, but I'm just trying to set a container for how we might interact moving forward? So nonviolent communication, I just express that because, and that's just the tip of the iceberg with that, but it's kind of, in my mind, the basis of authentic relating. How can we own our experiences in such a way that we can come into connection with others? Um, from that practice, there was a practice that came up called circling. And circling to me is still an odd practice, but I love it. And hopefully there will be opportunities within this community and elsewhere to be able to introduce that practice too. And if you can think of doing the meditation in the beginning where we're checking in with each other and or checking in with ourselves, coming in touch with what our inner world is. And circling, you do that, and then you, in the same way that we then brought our awareness to the other people in the room, um, it would be what you would call a relational meditation, where we're all having this experience of noticing what's happening in us, but then we're also doing it in relation to what's happening in the room, and we're expressing those things, and we're trying to keep them very present. We're not storytelling. We're not, um, you know, we're not thinking about what happened yesterday or what our fears over tomorrow. We're just trying to be right here in the moment with each other. And so, like a circling practice might look, as I'm looking around the room, I might say something like, um, hypothetically, Stephanie, I just saw that you were nodding a moment ago. And my impression is that, and now as I see you smile, my impression is that this resonates for you. And we've probably talked about this before. And, and I'm feeling like we're kind of connected in that way that, that you hear what I'm saying and you're familiar with the practice. And then that's my experience. And then I might check in with you and say, is that true? Um, you know, I would check my assumptions, or am I telling a story? And I give Stephanie the opportunity to respond and say, yeah, no, that's not true at all. I was reading something on my phone over here, and or whatever it is, and then it just becomes this back and forth practice of being in the space together, articulating what's happening in our worlds, talking about our somatic experience, our thoughts, our emotions, and then doing it in relation to others. And what happens in that practice is the more you check other people, you check your own assumptions with other people, you find yourself coming into the state of congruence where instead of us all telling a bunch of different stories, over the course of that session, you find at the end you're having a shared experience, like a truly shared experience. What is that like? Um, so, so that's circling, and then from circling, um, knowing that that can be a very odd practice to not have the storytelling, to just be present in the moment. This authentic relating movement kind of was born, and the question of that is how can we give that experience of presence with others a more accessible form? You know, how can we introduce that in a way that might be fun or not as strange, not as foreign in the moment? And that's where some of these games were born. You know, are there ways that we can drop in with each other that feel a little more accessible in the moment? And so I guess I want to check in. I want to take just a moment to pause, and I'm curious if anyone has any, you know, in authentic relating, this might be sharing impact. Um, check in with the group. Is there anything that's come up for you as I've been talking about these, or any curiosities or questions? Anything that you'd like to share? I just want to pause for a moment because, yeah, Kat.
So what I'm noticing, I had the booster shot the other day and I'm not feeling well. And so part of it is that I'm not feeling well, so I'm not gonna be my normal self, which there's this expectation for me to be my normal self. and I don't have the energy to do that. So I'm feeling partly that. And the other thing I'm noticing coming up for me is in like groups like this or talks, I often feel like this internal mandate to be supportive and loving and like do the hand wiggle so they don't feel alone, do the hand wiggle, like, so I feel like there's a tendency in me to kind of try to caretake other people's feelings or their experience. Like I have to fight against that and just like be me and like hope that people don't notice I didn't hand wiggle, so she must not like, I worry that people are going to feel like I don't like them because I haven't been appropriately supportive and stuff like that. Like it becomes this whole quagmire of expectations that I'm this loving person, and I am that loving person. However, I don't always, I don't show it in a certain way all the time, and that needs to be okay for me.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Kat. I really appreciate that share. Just in a moment, I mean, one of the last things I really want to talk about today in relation to this is the 5 practices, and we'll get into that in a minute because I want to leave the room open for other shares. But one of the very first practice is welcome everything, which if we were in a circling group together, Kat, as I'm guessing maybe you've experienced this before. That might be an assumption on my part, but is exactly what you just shared. Like it may not feel comfortable to say, hey, I don't feel well. I'm not, or even I'm not so engaged in this, or my feeling or expectation is that I need to take care of others in the group. Um, Whatever that might be is like that is part of the practice, is to welcome everything, to say, you know what, I can show up in this space exactly as I am, and that's totally okay. Like that's one of the things that we struggle with in the day to day, is feeling like we have to show up in a certain way, or if we don't, that we'll be judged for it, or that people will make assumptions about us, or that we're not fulfilling our inner desire to be present for others. And even before I move on from that, I just want to share, if you're a member of Awkwardly Zen, that Kat runs a self-love group, and it's just a wonderful experience if you haven't been there. I mean, just because exploring these ideas of how can we support ourselves even in the midst of struggle or doubt or whatever it might be that's coming up. What are the things that we can do to care for ourselves? And I would say that that's a tenet of authentic relating practices too. Um, before I move on though, I just want to pause and see if there are any other shares or reflections, impacts. Karen.
I've noticed so many times that the moments that I'm most nervous about being authentic, but that I decide to be anyway, is the most, it's the deepest connection that gets created by sharing that. It's crazy how often I realized someone was thinking the same thing, but was also scared about sharing it. Like Kat said,
Yeah.
it's pretty neat how when you overcome that fear, how deep the connection becomes.
Right. Yeah, I was reflecting the other day on this idea of just how exhausting it can be sometimes to not be authentic. That idea of even being in the elevator with someone and they're like, "How are you doing?" And it's like, "I'm great." And it takes so much energy to say that because inwardly I am just reeling in some way or another. I really want to say it's like I'm not really good right now. I could use a hug. It's like life is feeling kind of rough, but it's like, or even in expressing fears or anxieties, when you can express that and find out that other people feel that too, it's like, wow, how much energy was I spending protecting myself from this fear of judgment when in fact I was denying myself an opportunity to really connect with someone and to have a conversation about something that feels meaningful and transformational. And yeah, it's just so interesting. I see Michael. I want to check in. I saw Ava had her. I don't see Ava on the screen anymore. Yeah, okay, Michael. Yeah, and you're on mute, Michael.
I used to do some group therapies, and in some of the places where I was, one of the biggest things that I've noticed that helps me connect with people is whenever I've overcome the fear of letting what I've perceived as my failures out, telling my story, telling how I didn't do as well as I thought I should have done, or how I feel like I failed other people in my life. The people that I've talked to in those situations, they were able to open up themselves, and later on they would come up to me and they'd be like, thanks for opening it up. You were kind of the icebreaker for that situation. And I know that like you were talking about before with vulnerability, with I apologize for not remembering who was talking about the vulnerability aspect of it. But they were talking about being vulnerable and being strong at the same time, and that to me, showing people your vulnerability is definitely that icebreaker that people need, to let them know that they're not alone. I go through struggles every day. In fact, I think right now the left side of my head has got a little struggle going on right here.
Sure.
But it's I just now noticed that. So just a different mountains that we climb every day, just showing people that you have the stamina to keep on going. I think it shows other people that it is possible, and especially if you're willing to help them or guide them on the way as well. It's that's part of what this group is really been doing for me, is showing me how to reach out and talk and try to be my authentic self.
Yeah.
And I just want to thank everybody for that, and thank you.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate and I'm so grateful for that share, because it really reminds me, I didn't have a strong outline or structure for what we were going to do today, other than just to introduce you to authentic relating practices as I've experienced them. And one of the things that I did want to share, though, is hopefully we'll still have an experience in a few minutes, just kind of very, I don't want to say surface, but just an introductory experience. One of the things that's wonderful is when you set these containers of having shared agreements that allow you to explore that vulnerability together, you can go pretty deep pretty quickly and find these connective things that we all have in common. And what happens is, the container, you can have a good experience in these authentic relating practices, but the value and the transformative aspect for me has been that once I have that experience, I go out into the world and I'm like, I want to have this everywhere. What can I do to make mini containers in my conversations? Is there a way I can lean into my edge of sharing what might feel comfortable? Go a little bit further, maybe try and be vulnerable and see what that feels like. Granted, in the world, you have to use this in alignment with boundaries, and knowing that some places that's not always welcome, whatever it is. But is there a way that I can bring that experience more into my everyday conversation? And when I do that, like you were saying, Michael, it gives others permission to do the same. It's like we are all every day and every moment modeling how to act with each other. And if we take that initiative to say, this surface level interaction that I've been having at work doesn't work for me anymore, can I let them a little bit into my world? It's amazing what kinds of doors that will open, because someone will be like, oh, well, are we going there? Okay, let's go there. And next thing you know, you're finding deeper connections everywhere you go, and you're finding these opportunities. And even like seeing in the people, the strangers on the street and the people you're having conversations with, like every opportunity for a deeper connection. How many connections have we missed because of not taking those opportunities? That's the question that I ask myself a lot. Okay, so I'm going to check in. I know Ava. Let's check in with Ava, Jay, and Kat, and then we may need to move on after that. But yeah, please, Ava.
Okay, hi. Oh gosh, so many things are in my head right now. One of the things that I wanted to share is it's really hard for me to be on camera and on anything public because I've been burned really bad in the past. So it's scary for me. I am not a social media person at all, and not tech savvy. So I've been hacked into and other things. So it's scary. But yet I want to be totally open and throw all this, just open my heart and share everything with you guys. And I will. I'll go on camera and stuff when I feel comfortable. But thank you for allowing me the space to share that.
Thank you so much, Ava. And I would share, these things that we're talking about are an ideal, right? They're something that we would like to experience and a way of being in community together. But the reality is that these reasons we're not authentic, um, or not expressing our authenticity wholly, I would say, because everyone's authentic on some level, right? But I mean, there's reasons for it. There's ways we've been burned. There's things that happen to us. There's childhood traumas and messages that were given to us when we were young that we internalized. It's like it is a long road back to unpeel the layers of like how to interact. And one consideration on that journey has always been and will continue to be, how do I take care of myself? How do I know what my boundaries are and what I'm comfortable with, and can I honor that in myself? That um, because yeah, there are places in the world and contexts in the world where we might have the experience of being vulnerable or opening ourselves up in some way and getting burned for it. And I think that's a very real reality. And so that's the question of even thinking in Valerie's community and Awkwardly Zen, how the goal is that the guidelines, I don't believe there's such a thing as a safe space. You can never promise someone they're not going to get triggered or that they're not going to have a bad experience. It would be inauthentic to say so. But the goals of the community guidelines and the things that we share, are the agreements and authentic relating practices, are, how can we move in the direction of a safer space where we can lean into our bravery in testing some of these things. And it's a journey. Yeah, it's a journey, and I'm still very much on it. One of the questions I came in with today was, why me? Why would who am I to be trying to present these things? Because um, there are so many situations in my world where I don't open up, and it's because I've been burned or I've been made to feel bad, or something from my past has triggered all these insecurities that make me want to go hide in my house. So, and then as if I've talked about with others, a few others in this room, it's like the answer is really, well, it's like I'm just sharing what my journey has been, and hoping that we can co-create an experience through that conversation. So let's go, Jay, Kat, and Stephanie, and after that, I want to talk a little bit about the 5 practices, and then see if we might save a little bit of time for anyone who wants to play a game or two.
Yes, so um, I have a fear of, I guess, speaking my mind or sharing how I feel, because I feel like I'm afraid what I say will make me look weak in front of people or less than others, and I feel like I always try to be accepting and accommodating of what other people say, but I'm really afraid to share how I feel, even though I know the times when I do share how I feel. I know a lot of other people are benefited from that kind of thing. So it's just something I'm trying to work on.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. I feel my desire is to want to respond to that in full, but it's like, just share, I don't know if you saw the hand waggles in the room. I think that's a big thing. It's like, how do we be in relation to others while honoring what's happening in ourselves? That's the question. Is there a way that I can share what's happening for me? Even that idea of making requests of others. I know in my own experience, sometimes I haven't felt worthy of being able to ask for things, or scared of being abandoned or rejected in the process of stating my own desires and needs. Um, and then trying to shift that into this idea of, can I see vulnerability as a strength? You know, if I don't spend all of this energy trying to be someone else in situations, maybe I'm opening the door to put myself in environments with people where I really need to be, you know, where I will be accepted for having those desires and those needs. Because often I find myself in circles where people are relating to a version of me that I don't relate to. And it's like, wow, how much energy does that take? And why do I feel disappointed? Because I'm not really giving them an opportunity to see me. It's like they're interacting with a version of me. That's really, I need to own my own experience, because I can't blame them for that. They're only reacting to what I'm showing them, right? So, and man, oh man, is it a journey and is it hard? Um, but yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Kat and then Stephanie.
Tim, that's really in alignment with what I was about to say, which was my authentic self is not static. It's fluid and it changes. And like so many times I feel like there's expectations for me to be, like you were saying, who they expect you to be, because that's the side of you they've seen. And I've felt very stuck in that a lot of times in my life. And I saw a meme this morning that said, it's okay to be a person that other people don't expect you to be. And like, that's for me, the thing is to be able to like be whoever I am in this moment, like to have authentic, actual expression of what I'm feeling right now, instead of trying to maintain some sort of image or expectation from other iterations of myself. Like
Yeah.
I'm not who you think I am, or I'm not who I think I am. I'm just alive.
Thank you, Kat. That brings to mind for me, just what's coming up for me right now is that idea that authentic relating, or whatever you would call it, the practice of being that, it truly is a practice, right? It's not something that's like, oh, I got it now. I'm me, and everyone sees me for me, and everything is great, and I can just move forward in my life, and it's all going to be great. It's like it's truly a daily, like sometimes I'm not in a place, and that might be an authentic expression too, of like being in a situation where stuff is coming up that I don't feel comfortable sharing here. And even if, you know, in the terms of bringing my inner experience into alignment with how I am in relation to somewhere else, that might be an authentic expression too. Like even what you were saying earlier, Kat, is like, yeah, I don't feel so well today. And I don't feel like I can support people in the way that I would like to, or, you know, or I don't really feel the hand waggle. It's not working for me right now. It's like even saying that is honoring where you're at, right? And who you are. And that becomes a practice, because we'll find ourselves in all sorts of situations where it's easier than others and harder than others and all of that. It's a daily practice. So Stephanie, and then Marianne, and then yeah, and then after that, I do want to take a few moments. So yeah.
Just the permission to just be exactly where I am in the moment. I realize that when I raise my hand, I am not even remotely close to where I am now, you know, like to share, it's something totally different. The one thing that stayed the same though is I do notice that I have like anxiety in my heart, and I'm holding both how important this practice is, not only for me, but I feel like just how segregated or separate we all are right now in the world, and how important this could be, and also how scary it feels too. Like holding both of those things and then noticing how that is in my body. So thank you for offering this.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for Stephanie and Jillian and Valerie, of course, for helping in the background too. I sure appreciate that. I just wanted to mention that in a moment. Marianne.
Oh, I just wanted to say that one of the things I struggle with is that when people try and put me in a box and try and define me, because as one of you had said, I don't remember who it was, but I'm different from moment to moment. Like I like to view myself as so much in the now that I don't know what was said 2 minutes ago, because I don't hold on to it. And people have this idea of me, especially at work, of who I am and what I'm capable of. And it's like, you know, I have to remind myself that I'm not that person. You know, yesterday I was motivated and I got 100 things done, and today I feel like shit. Am I gonna, am I going to push myself like I did yesterday so I can show up in the same way, or am I gonna own myself and be who I am? And so most of the time, because we're all human, most of the time I have no choice but to be myself. And but it's still something I struggle with, because I don't like these views that people have, and a lot of the times it says a lot about them and not about you. It says a lot about their authenticity. And what is authenticity anyways? Like I struggle with it. I don't even know what it means anymore, because it's like we've all experienced trauma, and we've all experienced, hardships in our lives, and sometimes we do wear a mask depending on the social situation. Am I gonna stroll into work I don't know, in the way I would, when I go to a bar, even though I don't go to bars. I'm just trying to think of something completely the opposite. No, I'm not. I'm gonna show up. I'm gonna wear slacks and a shirt or whatever. Is that the authentic me? I was thinking about that the other day. No, that's not. A couple years ago, because I've been working from home since COVID. I showed up in these like plaid work pants. And one of my coworkers made fun of me and was like, "Are you wearing pajama pants?" And I was like, yeah, I'm wearing pajama pants. Like, I mean, I experienced that all day. I experienced, people who just don't get me. People can't tell my gender, my age, where I'm from, what I like to do, because it changes constantly. And because I am authentic in that moment. So if I'm being authentic, you can't define me. I'm vast, and we're all vast, and we're all, we don't need to categorize ourselves. And so, yeah, that's all.
Yeah, thank you. Wow, yeah, absolutely. We're all fluid people, right? We're not static, and I think that's one of the challenges sometimes, is that the world wants to see us as that. And sometimes, I know for me personally, I see myself as that. Like, I don't allow myself to change. I still have this version of me that struggles with low self-esteem and confidence issues, and just the feeling awkward in the world, whatever it would be. And I hold that for myself sometimes, where the version of me 10 years ago would never do something like this today, would never take up this much of your time. I would feel, and even today, I feel a little self-conscious taking up this much space in a room. I don't like to be the center of attention. But yeah, can we allow ourselves to be that vastness that you're talking to? Can we allow ourselves to be more reserved one day and more open the next, more creative and leaning into our edge one day and feeling more reserved and insecure the next? I love that. And I think that is the honoring self part of this. How can we be true to our own experience and allow that experience to change as new things come into our awareness? I'm going to take just a moment. I see your hand up, JR. I feel like, part of the thought coming into today, I wasn't really sure where things would go. I feel like the conversation in the room here is really valuable, and I wanted to check in with folks. Would there be, just with a show of hands, would people be disappointed if we didn't do an AR experience? This was intended to be an introduction to the process. Okay, I see a couple hands. All right. JR, why don't yeah, if you have something to share, can you keep it real brief, and then I'm going to go over 5 practices and we'll do a quick game.
Absolutely, I'll keep it brief. Just because Miriam brought up the subject of authenticity, and I've been dealing with this with some other people I've been talking with lately. I think where Miriam and me are coming from a place where we try to be authentic all the time, because we can't really lie, and we can't really cheat. We can't play all the games that other people are playing. So we latch onto this honesty thing, but then sorry, then I start doubting myself. Then I have other friends that are like, people who've been beaten over the head so much with the politeness stick that they're too polite to be themselves, or to just express themselves and to be original. And it's always, I guess that makes sense to me now, but it's always been a big thing to me that I've always not liked inauthentic people, or people that aren't real, or fake or whatever. So I was just saying, it's like, you got to realize, like, we're authentic all the time. And Oh, never mind. I'll shut up now. I forgot what I
Okay,
said.
thank you, JR. Miriam, if you have a brief thought, but I really do need to
I
move
just wanted
on.
to share that I
So,
fart at work. That's all. It just popped in my head when he said we can't not be our authentic selves. Like I
mhm.
fart at work and that's okay. I don't know why I do it. It just happens. And I burp, but I work with a bunch of guys anyway, so
Sure, thank you. Uh, yeah, uh, hmm. I'm going to resist my desire to share in response to what you shared, JR, just because I'm aware of time now as time is moving against us. So real quick, I want to share the 5 practices of authentic relating. In an authentic relating event, we would do agreements beforehand, and that's creating the container, right? We're not going to go super deep today. We might just have an experience and we'll see how it goes, and it may go well and it may not. This will be my first experience with breakout rooms with this many people. I will say if you want to participate, if it's possible to have your camera on, that would be wonderful. I know not everyone feels comfortable with that, and that's okay too. So, but yeah, we'll just see how it goes. So today I'm going to talk about the 5 practices, but we'll use that also as our agreements for this experience. And the first one is to welcome everything, which is to say, kind of like we were talking about before, we tend to resist things that feel uncomfortable or or might bring up something negative within us, whatever that might be. But is there a way that we can be in the space and just look at what our experience is with a curiosity? If I feel anxious or nervous, or we get kicked into a breakout room and it doesn't go as expected, is there a way I can just be with that and say, what is this experience like for me? What is it like for, things not to go exactly the way I planned, or what is it like for these feelings to come up within me? Um, can I just welcome everything? Can I be in the moment and just have an experience? Another is to assume nothing. We tell stories about each other all the time. We see things that give us judgments or see somebody in the room say something, and then we tell a story about what that means or who they are because of that. But in all reality, do we really know if we've never checked in with them? Is the story we're telling based on what their actual experience is, or is it based on our values and beliefs and the things that we've brought in with us? To what extent do we project those things we repress on others? If I see someone else as, you know, selfish or taking up too much space or whatever, is it that fear of that same quality within me that I'm just repressing? And so in that matter, can we let go of our assumptions and just try to be with someone and be open to them being whoever they are in that moment, and know that we don't know a bit of their story, really, especially when we gather in spaces like this, where we're just meeting for the first time. Another would be to own your experience, which is to say, as you're sharing, can I share with I statements? Can I be aware that I'm bringing my values and my beliefs in, that I am projecting on others? Can I say, that my experience of this is, or I feel this? Can we do that without making someone else try and own what our experience is? And can we also allow others to have their own experience as well? That desire to take care of someone. Do we, that we may be telling a story that they need that, but it may be that they're feeling exactly what they need to feel in the moment, right? And there are ways that we can be supportive without, owning their experience. Another is to reveal your experience, which would be to say, to what extent can I tell you what's happening in my inner world? Um, I think I'm going to leave it at that, just to say, can I lean into the edge of that and really tell you what's going on or what's coming up for me? And then the last one is to honor self and others. And honoring self would be to say, you have full autonomy to take care of yourself in this situation, in any situation. There may be some implicit rule or some idea of a rule to follow, but it may find that you're not comfortable playing a game, and that it's totally within your right to return to the main room, to drop out, whatever it is. Can you honor yourself and take care of yourself and know that everyone else will do the same? And when everyone else is doing the same, it gives us permission to have our own experience and to check our assumptions, to maybe ask questions that feel a little bit outside of the norm of regular conversation. And then honoring others is to say, yeah, can we let go of our judgments? Can we respect the requests that others make? Can can we allow them to have their own values and beliefs coming into a situation in a way that is allowing them to honor themselves as well. So with those rules in mind, I mean, I will share, like in an authentic relating game night, we would start off with those rules and then we would do a whole bunch of things that would drop us in over time. We'd have some connective check-in experiences. We would have some dyads where people are paired off in twos and do these sentence stems that I talked about earlier. And then we might play games where there's 3 or 4 people, and everyone has this opportunity to share and to practice active listening and all of these things. I'm aware we have 15 minutes. That's not a lot of time. So I think I'd like to introduce a very simple AR game that can kind of be fun and it can be surface. We can choose our experiences in what we share. And if it doesn't feel right to go vulnerable and deep, then that's perfectly good within this game. And this is called the Google game.
And Tim,
And
can I interrupt you for just a moment? I'm going to stop the recording as we get into this game portion. If you're watching this on a recording, please check the description for links and how to join more of Tim's authentic relating events in the future, and also how to join To Row Unicorn and Coffee so that you can see those events. That'll be in the description.
sure. And so